Starting off this list at number 10, we have Kenny Beach. His real name is Kenneth Lee Veach, and he was an American YouTuber who posted videos of his hiking trips. He only ended up uploading 5 videos in total, but interacted a lot with other hiking channels, which helped him quickly gain popularity. Kenny was very proud of the toll his amazing and difficult hikes took on his body. He even said it took him 3 days to recover from his hikes usually, and that sometimes his toenails would even turn black and fall off. Near the end of 2014, Kenny posted a comment on a video that explained that while he normally enters every single cave he finds, when he found one that was shaped like an M and began to enter it, his whole body began to vibrate, and the closer he got, the feeling became more intense. The feeling really freaked him out, so he ended up getting out of there as quickly as possible. After this comment, tons of other users encouraged him to try and find the cave again and fight the eerie feeling and go inside, and to make a video of it. Kenny did exactly this and made a video that ended up being his most viewed video, titled M Cave Hike. Unfortunately, he was unable to find the same cave again. Viewers were upset that he was unable to find it, and they quickly started pushing for him to look again, but there were a few comments begging Kenny to leave it alone and not to go back, fearing that he would be putting himself in a dangerous situation. On November 10th, 2014, Kenny set out once again to try and find the cave and explained to his family that he would just be going on a short overnight trip. Unfortunately, Kenny never returned home and the search began. His cell phone was discovered at the opening of an abandoned mine shaft, which many viewers thought they recognized from his M Cave Hike video. Unfortunately, since then the trail has gone cold and Kenny still has yet to be located. While it is extremely unlikely, I really hope that he is still out there somewhere, and hopefully one day we get the answers we're looking for and his family will get their much needed closure. Moving on, in our number 9 spot, we have the YouTube user Bill Smith. Bill Smith was part of the QAnon movement and posted a lot of videos that he claimed were secrets that the government doesn't want us to know about. He was an extremely frequent poster, so it raised alarm bells when he just all of a sudden stopped posting videos. He never gave any indication that he wanted to stop posting videos, and his last video honestly made it seem like he had every intention to continue, with him saying he will fight with everything he has and that he was all in. There are a lot of theories about where he could have gone that include him being investigated by Homeland Security, or if there were any truth to his claims, potentially being taken into custody. People also believe that if his channel did become active again, that it would be the government covering their tracks and uploading on his behalf. It's a lot of speculation, but at the end of the day, who is Bill Smith and where did he go? Moving on to number 8, we have the user Paranormal Lana, who also was known by the name Alana G. She was a pretty popular YouTuber with over 50,000 subscribers and mostly covered content that was either paranormal, spooky in some way, or real events. On September 3rd, 2015, her channel was just suddenly deleted, as well as all of her social media accounts. This quickly became a huge topic of conversation among other YouTubers who were in the same genre as Alana. One person began to point out that just prior to her disappearance from the internet, she had posted a series of tweets explaining that she had a pretty serious stalker incident, and she was having to change how her social medias were being managed. Although many cyber sleuths have looked into where she could have gone, no one is exactly certain of what happened to her. If she really did have a stalker, maybe disappearing was the only thing she could do. I just hope that she is safe wherever she ended up. Moving on down to number 7, we have Shima Luan. Shima Luan was an American YouTuber who worked for the channel Super Planet Dolan. It was an animated channel, and Shima was one of the most active characters on the channel and was well liked by those who watched. In 2016, in a video called The Future of Planet Dolan, they explained that Shima had suddenly fallen out of contact with the other people on the channel, but the last time they spoke, she was safe, so they didn't suspect anything bad. Of course, a lot of viewers didn't believe this and began to speculate that this was the crew trying to cover up her disappearance. In February of this year, a YouTuber called Scarce Theater made a video taking a look into Shima's disappearance, and one of the members of the Dolan crew left a comment that may have cleared some things up for us. The comment read, "It's sort of an unsolvable mystery to those who don't know her, because to solve it in a satisfying way publicly, we'd have to invade the actress who played Shima's personal life on a public level. No one who walks away from a job in entertainment wants to be dragged out in the public and shown around. That would be ghoulish. in respect to the privacy of others. All I can say is that this is one of the better videos on the topic. Everyone else fell into trappings of teasing ideas of conspiracy and horror. Truth is, we always had trouble getting folks to separate the cartoons from the actors. This definitely leads us to believe that Shima had her reasons for leaving the channel, but it truly is none of our business. It's easy to forget that some of our favorite creators are also real people who deserve to have their lives kept private, if they so choose. While we miss Shima's content, it's good to know that she is safe. Coming in at number 6, we have the YouTubers who went by Mac Adventures. They were a father and son channel with a destination of Area 51. In 2016, they had posted a video of them finally arriving at the Area 51 border. As they arrive at the border, a couple of agents in full camo gear pull up to them in a truck, get out with guns in their hands, and basically ask them to leave the premises. After the video was posted, they released one more video and then an extended version of their original Area 51 video, and then they went totally silent. All of their social media were blown up with people believing that the Area 51 video was fake, which has led some people to believe that they just decided they didn't want to continue creating content because of the negativity, but that's not what everyone believed. A lot of people believed that maybe they had just gone back to Area 51 and tried to get further into the closed off area than last time and ended up getting arrested, or maybe even worse. After a few years of people speculating and wondering what happened to them, last year there was finally an update. The son of the duo ended up doing a YouTube livestream where it was finally explained that they had just decided to take a break, and it ended up becoming more of a permanent decision than they had originally planned on. While this is sort of an anticlimactic ending, it's definitely the best outcome that could have happened. At our halfway mark in our number 5 spot, we have the user Kev Jumba, whose real name is Kevin Wu. Kevin was one of the first YouTube stars joining the platform all the way back in 2006, and by 2008 he was the 3rd most subscribed to channel. Kevin used his YouTube success to go on a season of The Amazing Race, as well as even landing a role in a Hollywood film, Revenge of the Green Dragons. He slowly began to post videos less frequently and eventually made his channel entirely private, moving his focus more to the other aspects of his career. Things took a turn though in 2015 when he kind of just entirely disappeared for a while. People began to get really worried about Kevin, and rumors began to swirl about what could have happened and where he could have gone. Luckily, we eventually heard from Kevin again, but in an unfortunate turn of events, he explained that the reason for his disappearance is because he had been hit by a car and suffered some pretty serious injuries. The accident left him with a broken spine and a collapsed lung, as well as a number of psychological injuries. He has since been focusing on his recovery and credits his dad for really helping nurse him back to health. While it is obviously extremely traumatic and upsetting that he had to go through this near-death experience, we're just glad that he was able to make it through and recover. Continuing on to number 4, we have Spy Kitten TV, who was also known as Dasha. Dasha made a lot of videos about the Illuminati and people that she suspected were members. Her last video was posted in July of 2018, and while all of her social media profiles remain up and active, no one has heard from her or seen a post since. It is possible that she just decided to leave the internet life behind, but it is kind of curious that she didn't leave any sort of farewell. People have speculated that she was exposing too many secrets and ended up being kidnapped or silenced by the Illuminati, while others believe that she met some sort of ill fate in another way. I'm sure those in her personal life know what happened to her, and while I wish someone could give us some sort of update, I suppose it really is none of our business unless they decide they want to share. Hopefully she's out there somewhere, and maybe someday we'll know what happened and where she went. Coming in at number 3, we have Marina Joyce. Marina was a popular makeup and fashion YouTuber and had a large 2.1 million following. People began noticing that something just wasn't right about her behavior in her new videos, feeling like she was more distracted. This led them to believe that she could be scared or in some kind of danger. Eventually people noticed a gun in the background of one of her videos, bruises on her arms, and people said she wasn't blinking as much, and even swore that they heard her whisper, "Help me." In 2019, Marina ended up going missing for 10 days. While she was missing, her boyfriend was tweeting that she was safe, even though the police had an active investigation into her whereabouts, and he tried to shut down any claims that he was acting suspiciously, even though it's super suspicious to say that a missing person is safe when no one knows where they are. After it was confirmed that Marina had been found, she tweeted that she never actually went missing, even though, like I mentioned before, the police were actively looking for her. She claimed that her suspicious boyfriend had been taking care of her. There are a lot of speculations about what happened and why she disappeared for that time, but she claims that she is not in any sort of toxic relationship and just wants her fans to watch her videos and stop worrying. Hopefully she really is okay and fans were just reading into things that weren't actually anything, but it's a super bizarre situation. Continuing on to number 2, we have Kaylee Elise. Kaylee was a true crime YouTuber who covered things like missing people and unsolved crimes. In 2019, we did get a heads up from Kaylee that she would unfortunately be leaving the platform due to some health concerns that she was facing, and in a live stream goodbye, she assured fans that she would keep her videos up for everyone to continue enjoying. This is all fine and well, but people got very concerned a few months later. In December of 2019, her entire channel was deleted. It caused a lot of fans to worry about what happened to her and if her health concerns worsened after she left the channel. Unfortunately, there hasn't been an update this year on what happened or what led to the deletion of her channel, but some people have begun re-uploading her videos so that people can continue to enjoy the content. Wherever she is, I hope she's able to take care of her health concerns and focus on herself. Finishing off this list in our number 1 spot, we have the strange disappearance of Nicholas Sonderegger. Nick was a fairly small but growing YouTuber with 2,000 subscribers and was featured on the YouTube channel Explore With Us. Nick was 28 at the time of his disappearance and was last seen on September 7th, 2018 around 2:30 a.m. He had heard a female screaming outside of his home in Salton Beach, California, and went to investigate. After he failed to return home that night, he was reported missing the next morning. Some of his clothing that he had left in was found by the search parties, but it is still unknown what happened to him or where he could be. It's really upsetting that he obviously went to go and help someone who seemed to be in despair, and it led to trouble for him. It certainly shows his courage and bravery. There's a $10,000 reward for any information that leads to his whereabouts, so if any viewers have information, please contact the Imperial County Sheriff's Office. Someone somewhere has to know something about where he could be, and I hope that one day his family gets answers and closure.
Starting us off, the number 10 is the Goddard family. In September of 1999, Dr. Yves Goddard took his 2 kids Camille and Marius fishing in the ponds of Planquerie, France. I tried googling how to pronounce it, you guys, nothing was coming up, so I apologize. Now, he told the boat owner he wanted a boat for a cruise and would bring it back on the 5th, but before he left, he bought a bunch of floor cloths and cleaning products. Boat rides can get messy, I guess. Now, during a boat inspection the next day, officers found one of the kids sleeping and all seemed well other than the fact that the doctor was acting weird. The next day, a waffle vendor remembered seeing the trio, but by day 4, the boat was found abandoned. A dinghy was found nearby, and on board was Eve's checkbook and a jacket and nothing else. Authorities also found morphine and blood in the doctor's van after the family were nowhere to be found. By the 8th, the police searched the family's home where they found significant amounts of blood everywhere, and when it was tested, it turned out to be his wife's, who no one had seen since the 31st of August. Over the years, other items floated ashore the coast of Brittany, like IDs, the bones of Eve, and the skull of one of his kids. It was clear he had most likely killed his wife and then killed his whole family, including himself, but why? Coming in at number 9 is the Martin family. Back in December of 1958, Kenneth Martin, his wife, and 3 daughters went for a day trip to Columbia River Gorge and never returned. 3 days after their day trip, when Kenneth failed to show up to work and the kids failed to show up to school, the family was reported missing. The first step was searching their house, where they found everything was as normal as could be. Drying dishes, laundry, the usual. Police found the family's abandoned vehicle and nearby a handgun covered with dry blood. Nothing came of that, but the bodies of Susan and Virginia were found the next year. Their bodies had been floating downstream near the gorge, and autopsy results showed they had both drowned. Most people think Kenneth crashed the car into the river, whether on purpose or by accident, and that's how the whole family died. At number 8, we have the Beaumont siblings. I can't even imagine losing my siblings, they're my whole goddamn life. So way back in 1966, 9-year-old Jane, 7-year-old Anna, and 4-year-old Grant disappeared from Glenelg Beach in Australia. Their parents let them go to the beach often, as they always came home by their curfew anyway. They were a good bunch of kids. But even still, I would not trust my 9-year-old to babysit my other 2 children, let alone go to a public beach alone. Anywho, when the children left at 10 a.m. and didn't return for their 2 p.m. curfew, the Beaumonts got worried. By 7:30 that night, their mother had called the police and was completely inconsolable. Witnesses at the beach said they saw the kids with a tall blonde guy with a thin face, which kind of sounds a bit like Count Olaf. Is anyone else getting that feeling? Just me? Now, a local vendor also told authorities the kids bought a meat pie, which was strange because the kids had never purchased one before and because their parents hadn't sent them out with any money. This led to more unanswered questions. Where did they get the money for the meat pie? Why did they buy it to begin with? And most importantly, where did the children go? There's still $1 million reward regarding their disappearance. Some think the man abducted them, while others fear they were washed out to sea or Grant got pulled out and his sisters attempted to save him, with all of them perishing in the process. Is it me, or does this whole case just sound a lot like the Baudelaire siblings from a series of unfortunate events? This man literally sounds like Count Olaf. It's the true story come to life. Filling at number 7 slot is the MV Joyita, I hope. Now, back in 1955, a fishing and charter boat was lost at sea, missing its intended destination by 5 weeks. There were around 25 passengers and crew aboard the vessel, and admittedly, they all knew the ship was in extremely poor condition before they set off. The radio only had a range of 2 miles, and it had a bunch of corroded pipes all over it. Regardless of all that, the ship was incredibly buoyant, so how could it have even sank? The air search mission couldn't find the boat anywhere, but a merchant ship managed to find it drifting 600 miles away from its origin with no crew or cargo. All they found was a doctor's bag and a ton of bloody bandages, with the radio turned to the universal distress signal. Other than those clues that they left behind, no one knows what happened and the crew was never seen again. Who was bleeding? Where did they try and go to get help? Why did they get on board to begin with? So many unanswered questions. Now at number 6 is the Gill family. Back in January of 2002, an Argentinian family of 6 were reported missing with no one knowing their whereabouts. Ruben and his wife Margarita worked as landlords and were a pretty basic family. On the 12th, they went to a family friend's house, and that was the last time anyone saw them. Police investigation revealed that Ruben had called a woman in Rosario multiple times the next day, but were unable to trace her. No relative or friend knew anything, but were sure they wouldn't have just disappeared voluntarily. They didn't have a car, they both had jobs, their kids were in school, they have no reason to leave. In 2006, the family's lawyer claimed the police were involved in the disappearance because they had been in a previous one. 2 years later, a raid was carried out at the home and they had found dugout wells all over the property and cleaned up blood on the floor. Ruben was a fun, sociable person, but in the days before the disappearance, he seemed quiet and worried. Different provinces were searched too, but with no new leads. What was also odd was how the landlord of their new home said they had left behind all their money and possessions, but when the police got there, nothing was found. He had also weirdly given them a 3-month vacation that month when he had never in their life before given them longer than 2 weeks. And apparently the two parties didn't like each other much either, so where'd the family go? My guess, the landlord got rid of them. Coming in at number 5 is the Mary Celeste. People have such official names for ships, I swear I would name mine something short and sweet like the Oyster or the Pearl. Anyway, on the morning of the 7th of November 1872, Captain Briggs, his wife and daughter, as well as a 7-member crew set out on a journey from New York to Italy. The journey was meant to take 1 month, but the ship never reached its destination. A British ship called the Del Gracia saw the Mary Celeste drifting in the Atlantic near Portugal, so the crew decided to investigate. 6 months worth of food was found as well as all the crew's belongings, but the lifeboat had been used and deployed. The floorboards were under 3 feet of water, but the state of the ship was fine. It wasn't flooded and it definitely wasn't beyond repair. The captain of the Del Gracia actually knew Captain Briggs and knew he was a very capable sailor, so the scene made no sense. Till this day, no one knows what happened to anyone on board. It's speculated that they abandoned the ship thinking the damage was worse than it was, but then didn't survive after that. And number 4 is Roanoke, aka the Lost Colony. Back in 1587, Josh White led a colony to Roanoke Island, which is present-day Dare County in North Carolina. Now before Josh, 2 attempts were already made to try and found the first English settlement in North America, but both attempts failed due to various reasons. The main one being bad relations with the local Native Americans and the settlers. Either way, when Josh got there, supplies and resources were slim, and so he went back to England to get more supplies in 1588. He told the residents of the colony that if the colony was taken by force, to carve a cross in a nearby tree so he'd know that that's what happened. Like, I love how he'd think if the colony was being overtaken, the first thing anyone would think to do would be like, oh wait, amidst this pillaging, let me quickly carve a cross into this tree. Either way, he ended up coming back in 1590 to find the settlement meticulously abandoned. All the fortifications were dismantled with care, but he found no carved cross anywhere. Instead, he found the word Croatoan carved into a post coast, and that was the name of a native tribe that were allied with the English at the time. White assumed that meant the colonists moved to Croatoan Island, but investigations pointed to them being killed by the Powhatan tribe, yet there was no evidence of a massacre, so again we have no idea where they went. Filling at number 3 slot is Carol A. Deering. In August of 1920, the schooner, which had 10 crewmen aboard, set sail from Norfolk, Virginia to Rio de Janeiro with their cargo of coal. The original captain of the ship got ill a few days before its departure, so he was replaced and off the ship went, and they reached their destination safely, and they all lived happily ever after. Not, that's never the case on Top 10. A lightship keeper said he saw the ship on its way home and was hailed by an unidentifiable crewman who claimed the ship had lost its anchors. The keeper tried to report it, but his radio wasn't working, so he couldn't, but what he found odd was that the crew seemed to be milling around suspiciously for no reason. The next day, another ship saw the Deering near Outer Banks, which was weird because that would have been a strange course for them to take if the ship was really on its way to Virginia. A day later, it was found aground and on the Diamond Shoals with its sails still set but all the lifeboats missing. Due to bad weather, it took surf boats 5 days to reach the ship, and as expected, it was completely abandoned. All the crew's personal belongings were gone, papers, the anchors, even key navigational equipment, all gone. Despite an extensive search, no logs were found either. But the most viable explanation people have come up with is that a mutiny must have occurred due to the crew's apparent dissatisfaction with the new captain, who already had an uneasy relationship with the crew. Is that not dramatic? Now at number 2 are the Sodder children. This one is long and detailed, so keep up people, it's worth it. Fayetteville, Virginia, Christmas Eve 1945. Italian immigrants George and Jenny Sodder went to bed along with 9 of their 10 children. The last one was away in the army. Yes, it was a huge family, I know. Now that night a fire broke out in the house and 4 children escaped, but 5 disappeared without a trace. George tried to go back in to get the remaining 5 children who were all upstairs, but the downstairs floor and staircase were already engulfed in flames. So he tried something else. Now he usually kept a ladder propped against the house, so he thought he'd use that, but that was also suspiciously missing, and he then thought he would drive his truck next to the window, climb on top of it, and go up from there. But again, weirdly, neither truck would start despite them being perfectly fine the day before. They even called the fire department twice but got no response, and by the time the crew came, it was 8 AM and the house was just a pile of ash. After the investigation was over, there was no bodily remains found amongst the rubble, so they suggested to the family that the fire was so hot it fully cremated the kids, but George and Jenny had their doubts. They even went to a crematorium where they were told that bones remained even if they were burnt at 2000 degrees for 2 hours. The fire only lasted 45 minutes. Months before the fire, a stranger told George the 2 fuse boxes at the house were going to cause a fire. Around the same time, another man tried to make him buy family life insurance and got angry when George declined and said, "Your goddamn house is going up in smoke and your children are gonna be destroyed. You're going to be paid for the dirty remarks you've been making about Mussolini." Now the night of the fire, Jenny got a weird call from an unknown woman who seemed to be laughing at Jenny, and despite knowing the front door was unlocked, she went to bed anyway. In the middle of the night, she had a long bang on the roof and then a rolling noise. It was later found to be a napalm that had landed on the roof. The house's lines were found cut, they weren't just not working. Someone else said they saw the missing kids in a car across from the fire. Another said she saw 4 of the 5 kids along with 4 Italian adults at a hotel, but despite following lead after lead for decades, the parents never found anything. And finally, at number 1 are the Springfield 3. Back in June of 1992, 19-year-old Susie McCall, her friend Stacy, and Susie's mum Cheryl all went missing from the McCall family home. The girls had just graduated at the start of that month and were last seen around 2 AM the morning after their graduation. The 2 were planning to sleep at their friend's house, but it ended up being way too crowded, so they just went back to Susie's. They did get there since all their stuff was there, but the next day the friends had plans to go to a water park with this couple, and after not showing up, the couple went to the house to find the front door unlocked with nobody inside. There was broken glass on the floor, the lamp had been shattered, and their dog was in distress. While they were there, the girl received several phone calls from a random man who kept making sexual jokes. Stacy's mum got to the house hours later and was searching for clues in a panic and checked their answering machine to find a very strange message, which she then deleted. Like, this is evidence being erased here. But the main suspect of the kidnappings was Robert Craig Cox, a convicted robber and kidnapper. He had apparently told the media the girls had been killed and their bodies would never be recovered, but killers also tend to lie for media attention, so We don't know.
Starting off at our number 10 spot, we have Taylor with an E. Last year, near the end of the year, Taylor with an E posted a TikTok and then kind of ghosted the app for a while, and it had people super freaked out and wondering what happened. The video was of her in Germany, where she is not from, and there were some mysterious sounds from outside of the room that she was in. She was clearly really freaked out in the video, and when she stopped posting after, people began to speculate that something terrible might have happened to her. She commented a few times on her own video explaining that her sister had told her to never open the door for anyone in the area that they were in, and also that she was home alone for the next 2 hours, which obviously made her stressful situation even scarier. Well, we eventually heard from Taylor again, thank goodness, and while she hasn't actually addressed what happened to her on TikTok, it's good to know that she is safe. There is a rumor that people may have actually ended up breaking into the house and that maybe she isn't allowed to speak about it if there's an investigation going on, but that has yet to be confirmed. In our number 9 spot today, we have Elle. The TikTok user SigsFR, whose name is Elle, gave her followers a huge scare earlier this year. Elle posted a video on TikTok of her bruised body, saying that she had been kidnapped. She said that she didn't know exactly where she was, but knew that she was somewhere in Arkansas. In the comments of a video, she said that she knew the man that had kidnapped her and that his last name was Colarelli. And people on TikTok began contacting the Arkansas police. Elle also said that she would not be posting any more videos on TikTok because she said that she knew the man was about to take her life. People were absolutely freaking out and blowing the story up. People suspected the man she said is her kidnapper to be her ex-boyfriend, and people were also saying that she was using Morse code messages. Elle said that she couldn't call the police because her kidnapper would be able to hear the call, and this was the first red flag for people since there's a ton of ways to contact the authorities. The next red flag was the fact that Elle posted her Venmo, and people actually started donating. To get to the end of this story, basically the Arkansas State Police did end up investigating to find out what was going on, and they actually ended up finding Elle. It turns out she faked the whole thing. They haven't released a ton of details on exactly what was going on, but Elle has stopped posting on TikTok, which is probably the right move for now. I feel really bad for the people who were worried and who sent her money. In our number 8 spot today, we have LaCarica McNeil. Last year, 11-year-old Memphis resident LaCarica was reported missing. She was last seen on a weekend morning leaving her home and hadn't made any contact with her mom after that, which is obviously a great cause for concern because she's so young. She had apparently left her home with an older man that she had met on TikTok, which really just heightened the urgency of the case. The police description that was released after her disappearance said that she was last seen wearing a shirt with hearts on it and that she was just 4 feet 3 inches and only 55 pounds. This really paints a picture for just how small and potentially helpless she may have been. This investigation ended up prompting the question, how safe is TikTok really? In an amazing turn of events, LaCarica ended up being found and returned safe and sound, which is truly the best outcome for this really scary situation. I'm so glad that she ended up being okay and that this story has a happy ending. In our number 7 spot today, we have Arlene Martinez. Earlier this year, a TikTok user was away from the platform for a while, but it wasn't long before fans found out what happened and it was all over the news. A 20-year-old TikToker named Arlene was filming a video for the platform that was supposed to depict a fake kidnapping. The video was a larger production with at least 10 people involved in the filming on this day. Arlene was tied to a chair and was acting out a scene in which she was struggling with the people who had fake kidnapped her. In a really sad turn of events, for some unknown reason, a loaded handgun was used as a prop in the video, and it ended up firing, shooting and killing Arlene. There was actually a video posted of what the scene was like before this fatal moment. There has been a Facebook memorial page set up for people who love and miss her to go and share their memories with others. Moving on to our number 6 spot. Okay, so this one is about a person who posts on TikTok, but they are more successful on Vigo, which is an extremely similar app that is made by the same creators of TikTok. Earlier this year in January, a 21-year-old TikToker and Vigo star who goes by the name Jasmine on the apps went missing from Delhi, where she had traveled to for a performance. Jasmine's husband filed a missing persons report on January 7th. He said that she had left on December 31st for the performance and her phone was switched off on December 2nd and no one had heard from her since. Police quickly began their investigation and news began to spread of her disappearance. 10 days after the husband had filed the missing persons report, we finally heard some news. Jasmine actually ended up resurfacing and told a local channel that she had to run away because her husband and family-in-law tortured her. She said she never disappeared and that if you checked her husband's phone records, you would see that they had been in contact. This story is so crazy and has so many twists and turns in it. I'm really glad that Jasmine was able to get herself out of a dangerous situation and then she ended up being okay. Moving on to number 5 and our halfway mark. This story is a little bit different but is super interesting. In 2016, a woman came home to find that her husband had left the house that they shared with their 2 children. She tried as hard as she could to find him but was never able to find out where he went. She even filed the missing persons report with the police, but to no avail. Fast forward 3 years later to 2019 and a family relative thinks that she spots the husband in a video on TikTok. She of course quickly forwards it to the wife for confirmation. After watching the TikTok, she realizes that it is her husband and shows it to the police right away. The police ended up being able to track him down and confirm that it really was him. It's so crazy how the For You page literally helped solve a missing persons case. Moving on to number 4. In July of last year, 2 teenagers attempted an extremely dangerous TikTok video. Danish and Ashik were out for an evening walk when they arrived at a bridge. On the bridge was a group of people around their age who were performing different kinds of stunts and tricks to film for TikToks. The boys decided to join in on the fun and Danish ended up climbing onto the railing of the bridge before diving into the water below while Ashik filmed. After he captured the video, Ashik followed his friend and climbed over the railing to jump in the water as well. Danish ended up being rescued immediately by local divers who luckily just happened to be in the area, but unfortunately Ashik could not be located, even by the authorities once they were called. Lots of people tried to help in the search but were unsuccessful. It's really sad that what was supposed to be harmless fun turned into something so sad and so scary. Moving on to number 3. Okay. This one is a little different again, but I swear it is worth it because this story is pretty wild. Earlier this year, a group of teenagers were on a beach on Seattle to play around and shoot some TikToks. They ended up spotting something and went to investigate. Of course, documenting the whole thing on video to later be edited into a TikTok. As they approached, they realized that it was a suitcase and they thought that there might be money inside. As they got closer to the suitcase, they realized it smelled super bad. One girl ended up opening up the suitcase and it shows something wrapped in a garbage bag. This is when the teens rightfully decided to call the police before investigating any further. The police came and searched the whole area and found another bag as well. It turns out that the bags actually contained 2 bodies. This is where the police investigation began and shortly after led police to the killer. The bodies were identified as couple Jessica Lewis and Austin Wenner, and it turns out that their landlord was responsible for their deaths. I guess it was some dispute over unpaid rent, which is really not a good enough reason to kill people. I'm glad these teens did the right thing and called the police so that justice could be brought for the families of the victims. In our number 2 spot today we have Anna Maskovich, aka Ref Batch. For the last 10 years, Anna has uploaded upwards of 20 videos a day to YouTube and ended up joining TikTok when it became available. Her videos tend to be a bit bizarre and are either her angrily rambling in an unintelligible mixture of Russian and English that has people who are fluent in both absolutely stumped as to what she is saying. There are a few phrases that people have been able to make out that are along the lines of her being angry at and afraid of the government, as well as being afraid of being kidnapped. The other videos she uploads are her interpretive dancing, usually in the woods and looking directly into the camera. There's a dancer who has the same name as her and her performances stopped sometime in late 2008, but there aren't any photos to verify that it's the same person for sure. People began to speculate that she may have some form of schizophrenia, but of course that's just an internet diagnosis. In 2014, someone who claimed to be her husband, who had other videos of her, explained that Anna had actually been missing after she had been taken away for speaking poorly of the Russian government. He said that she had been taken to some sort of psychiatric institute where they gave her psychotropic drugs in order to make her stop speaking out about the government. Well, this has yet to be proven for sure. It is a pretty crazy story and kind of insane to know that while he's missing his wife, he sees all of these videos of her. I hope we get a concrete answer to this someday because there really is a lot going on. There's a lot more to this story that I don't have time to cover, but the YouTuber Atrocity Guide has an amazing video on all of it that I would highly recommend you guys go and check out after you're done watching this video. In our number 1 spot today, we have Sarah Turney. Okay, so this one isn't a TikToker who went missing, but it is a missing persons case that TikTok helped close the case on, so please don't get mad at me because it is really interesting. Sarah Turney was 12 years old when her 17-year-old sister Alyssa went missing. This happened on May 17, 2001, and ever since that day, Sarah has known that it was her dad, Michael, who was Alyssa's stepfather. There was never anyone charged with Alyssa's disappearance and presumed death, but Sarah just knew. Sarah began to post on TikTok as well as her website dedicated to the case, all of the evidence that she had pointing towards her dad. Things like the fact that he would follow her around and record her, and that there was at least one hidden camera inside of the house. Things like how he was the one who unexpectedly picked her up from school and was the last one to see her on that day. You know, just general uncomfortable, creepy things. Michael also kept changing his story about that day and night, which just adds another layer of suspicion. In an amazing turn of events, Sarah's voice was finally heard, and in August of this year, her father ended up being charged with second-degree. Sarah of course plans to attend every court hearing and every day of trial when it begins. I couldn't be happier for her, and I really hope that she sees justice served for her and Alyssa.